Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as a desperate plea goes in from Manuel Ugarte to sign me up, Manchester United. Also, is it the exit door for Jadon Sancho as Erik ten Hag gives him a big warning? Ben Chilwell linked to Manchester United this morning, plus a lot of players surely lining up for the exit door now. Christian Eriksen, Scott McTominay, Victor Lindelof, how many more will exit United in the next couple of weeks? And we'll be reacting to yesterday's game as well. Some comments and observations I'm sure that we've all got. And I suppose if we're just going to start there, the big story this morning, by the way, is, and this is coming in from Fabrizio Romano, Manuel Ugarte is pushing like crazy to join Manchester United. George Mendes is leading the talks. New contacts will take place in the next few days. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about Sancho as well. But just briefly, let's just touch on last night. Manchester United winning the game 1-0. And I think every day is a school day. You know, every day is a school day. There was a lot of negativity last night. There was some peak negativity last night. I think Gary Neville on commentary was really negative, and I'd love to know why. And I know it was Neville again, but he wasn't the only one. The reaction to the signings was just negative. I don't know. There's a lot of people coming into this season who are United fans, and we know the media at it. It was just very negative around United, and it will lead to quite a toxic environment. And we'll see it on social media, we'll see it on here, where you just have, you know, you want to see a bit of unity. And there are people coming into this season just very negative. And I watched my match reaction back this morning, and I said, look, I was very positive about the result. But I even sensed in there was negative stuff coming in from me, and I think I know why. One, I've not done a watch along for a few months where it matters, and two, it's like sit down, Neville, sit down, talk sport. And it's because it's that sit down haters mentality that's there again, because we're having to justify our backing of the team and the manager already in game one because there is toxicity out there. I really want to shed that. You know, I think football is so, you know, there's so many different levels to football. Seb had been away for a couple of days, got back late last night, was exhausted, so he went to bed. He asked me about the game this morning. I said we won. He was really happy. And then I said, boy, you won't believe what happened. You know, I told you De Ligt signed. Well, he was on the bench and Maguire played, and he was like, his face lit up. It was like smiling. He says, oh, did he do well? I said, he did. You know what? Probably didn't give him enough credit last night. He did do very well. And he was just, you know, beaming from ear to ear. And I just thought, you know, we won the game. There's a lot, you know, I don't want Maguire to play. No one wants Maguire to play. He's not good enough to play the way we want to play. I mean, if you actually want to delve into Maguire's performance, it was a centre-back performance for Everton. It was good, but he gave the ball away a lot. We did play a deep line. I don't know what people are playing, but in the context of the game, he had a good game, and so did Casemiro, and so did a few other people. It wasn't perfect, but we won the game and we move on. And you know, my general reaction today, before we talk about to last night, before we talk about the transfer news, and I don't know whether you agree with me, I woke up this morning and I just thought, I'm glad that's over. I'm actually glad it's over. All the hype, the start of the season, you know, into the game, you know, late goal. I just woke up this morning and went, I'm looking forward to doing watch-alongs on That's Football, where I can just watch football and it's not my team. We've got 3 points. Brighton's in a week time. I'm just glad we've won and we move again. You know, that's how I feel now. I'm ecstatic with the result, but I'm glad it's over because it was actually quite stressful at times. And yeah, only the manager can change the feelings, says Robert McCormack. Good to see you finally seated, says Rub. I'll be stood up again on the watch-alongs later. Neville must have got below average uni students coming in this year. Could explain the negativity, says Ethan. I don't know whether he was expecting a senior position in the club or something like that, because you know, he has a close relationship with Sir Jim. They're building around Old Trafford together, but he was just very negative again. I don't really get that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I want to talk about some improvements that Ten Hag needs to make from the game last night, but let's talk a little bit about true transfer news this morning, because we're on a news show and we can always delve back. I think there are 3 big things that Ten Hag needs to do after last night, and one of them revolves around not playing Mount and Bruno together again. That doesn't work, in my opinion. Anyway, let's get into it. So this story from Fabrizio Romano that Manuel Ugarte, let me read it again, is pushing like crazy to join Man United. George Mendes leading the talks. New contacts will take place in the next days. I mean, what I read from that is that Ugarte obviously is not going to be involved for the Brighton game. and therefore he's not going to be involved for the Liverpool game in the sense that he won't be starting. Look, we saw last night De Ligt didn't start, which means he might not start against Brighton now. And we've seen this with Ten Hag before. And there is an element of frustration because we're trying to build something new and he takes his time sometimes bringing those new players in. Now, he can't do anything about Ugarte. Mazraoui went straight in. But does De Ligt start against Brighton now, or has he got to fight for his place? And I don't necessarily agree with that. A lot of people will. I don't. We've bought these players for a reason, to play a certain way. We did it with Casemiro and McTominay 2 years ago. We bought Casemiro, but McTominay was doing well, so he's got to win his place off McTominay, which means you've got to have a bad performance from McTominay to get Casemiro in the team, which means if he's had a bad performance, we've probably lost the game. You're inevitably going to play Casemiro ahead of McTominay, just put him in. You're inevitably going to play De Ligt ahead of Maguire, just put him in. Don't wait for the bad performance, just get on with it. So I think that, there are still delays in building to where we want to be, and Ugarte is one of the biggest delays because we haven't actually bought him yet. When I look at Man United's midfield, it's interesting actually. I was looking at some of the player ratings across some of the journalists last night. I gave Casemiro a 7, and I gave Maguire and Martinez a 6.5. I think around that, 7s, 6.5s, absolutely agree with that. Some people were giving Casemiro like a 5. And I was like, look, you can have an agenda against Casemiro. Of course you can. He's not mobile enough. I'm sorry, he's not. He's not mobile enough. And Fulham were very wasteful in the final third. But he didn't have a bad game. But the big problem with the midfield yesterday was Mainu is gassed 15 minutes before he needs to come off. And you look at the bench and you go, there is nobody that can do Mainu and Casemiro's role. Eriksen can't do that, McTominay can't do that, Mount can't do that, and Bruno can't do that. So when you look at Man United and our midfield, you can give Casemiro a 5, you can give him an 8. You can give Mainu a 6, you can give him an 8. It doesn't matter. But in the modern game, you've got to have, in the engine room, backup parts on the bench. And we haven't got that. So it's all right picking holes in the fitness and Mainu did fall away. Understandably, he did a hell of a lot of running in the first 45 minutes. As I said, the high recoveries were immense. We need to get this Ugarte deal done is my point. He's desperate to come to us. We desperately need a midfielder. Whether it's to start games or whether it's to be on the bench at the, in his first few games, we desperately need another midfielder because we let Amrabat go. We're in a weaker position than we were in the FA Cup final. Amrabat started the FA Cup final. I was thinking about this last night. The team that we picked last night wasn't the midfield that won the FA Cup. Amrabat played very well in that game. He's not there. Casemiro was benched for the FA Cup final. Well, he didn't even sit on the bench, did he? So we are weaker in the midfield than where we were. Now, a lot of people in the chat are saying Collier. I like Collier, but I like Amas. Amas wasn't even on the bench, and we haven't got a left back. Collier played a lot in pre-season, didn't bring him on yesterday for legs. So what does that say to you about Ten Hag and youth? And we've seen it before. Yes, the youth are there. Yes, I trust the youth, but I am not going to throw them into environments where it could be damaging to their development. So I thought we were crying out for Collier in the last 20 minutes to just come on and give us some legs. But maybe Ten Hag, he trains the team. Maybe he's like, if this goes wrong, I don't want to, ruin his development. So this Ugarte deal is essential. I don't think us saying it's essential and we're desperate and he's desperate is going to make it happen today or tomorrow. I think it will happen before the end of the month. But what was abundantly clear last night, and I think it'll be abundantly clear against Brighton, is that after 60 minutes, Casemiro's never had the legs anyway, and Mainu was knackered. We have got players like McTominay who can hang around the box. We have got Eriksen who likes a pass, but we haven't got a grit, a determination player to just, get into a bit of a fight in the last 20 minutes with fresh legs. And, funnily enough, that's exactly what Amrabat, that's exactly what Ugarte would do. So I think that's one of the areas that may or may not have been picked up from last night, which is absolutely huge, which is we need more bodies in the midfield. We need more defensive cover in that midfield because Mainu and Casemiro, even if they stay fit, they're going to need subbing in games. If one of them gets injured or sent off, we're really in trouble. So I think we're really short in the midfield. And look, we saw it at centre-back last night. Lindelof didn't make the bench. Johnny Evans is on the bench. Maguire started. De Ligt's the new signing. So actually at centre-back, and Yoro to come back, centre-back at the moment looks okay. Last season it was a bloody nightmare. I'd say the engine room of the midfield is a little bit short at the moment, regardless of what you think about Casemiro. He's the only one we've got. So this Ugarte deal, really important. I suppose the question is, how quickly will we get this Ugarte deal done? To which the answer is, how long is a piece of string? In the sense that we've been working on this deal for 6 weeks and we still haven't got the deal. And whilst Fabrizio can say to us, you know, Ugarte's desperate, pushing, wants the deal done, PSG haven't lowered the price in 6 weeks and Man United haven't sold a midfielder either. So they're the two factors that are going to make this deal happen. Obviously, there's talk of more talks in the next few days, which means it's going to, you know, run into next week. So I think with Ugarte, I said this a couple of days ago, if you're thinking about Ugarte being a solution for that Man United side, you're talking after the international break. By the time we actually get him, he's going to have to go through all the fitness tests, isn't he? So, but it would be, you know what? I would love it if we signed him at the start of the week and just had him on the bench for Brighton. I mean, obviously, we're buying Ugarte to start. I'd bloody love it if he was just on the bench for Brighton for 20 minutes at the end. Start Casemiro and Mainu and then bring him on, because yesterday that's what we were crying out for. So I really do want this deal to happen quickly, because we all do. But I really, really want it to happen quickly because I think we need more options in the midfield around the engine room. And I wouldn't even moan about Ugarte starting against Brighton if we bought him on Monday. I'd just be like, at least he's on the bench and he can work his way into the team. I don't mind that. But at the moment, I just think, you know, we kept Mainu on 15 minutes longer than we should have done yesterday because we don't have enough options in the midfield. Sean Turner says, current City and us under Sir Alex never start the season firing. We got max points. That's all that matters right now. Just on the match, I feel Delo is out of the team once Shaw is back. Yeah, I feel I missed something on Delo yesterday. A lot of people gave him a bad score. I gave him a 7. I actually thought he did quite well. But look, you know, nobody's perfect. I don't really want to watch that game back. Normally I do. I don't. I want to leave that in history. It was a hard watch. There was a lot of emotion in it because it was a first game and late goal. I just want to park that and move on. I don't want to watch it again. But there were some people who like me agreed that Delo had a good game. There were some people who think he had a bad game. But I'd still prefer Rabiot and Amrabat over Ugarte, says Keel. What watch-alongs are you doing today, says Andy? So Ipswich Liverpool at 12:30, West Ham Villa at 5:30, and I think I'll go live at 3 just to be reacting to stuff as well. So I might do that. Eric Ten Hag could have picked Maguire and Casemiro to give them time to increase their chance of getting out the club, says Hayden. I don't think they will be. I don't think they will be leaving. Let's talk about Jadon Sancho, though. Neville must have done that one from Ethan Clarkson. Casemiro, the only threat we have from the dead ball, says Harvey Specter. Good point. And I still think we need another striker or winger. Anthony and Sancho don't seem to have a future. Do you think we'll get Tony, says Ben? I don't think we need Tony. I really don't get why we'd go and spend 40, 50 million pounds on Tony when you could spend 30 million on Gutierrez. We need left back more than we need Tony. I'm talking about left back like it's a player. We need left back. Left back we need. I mean, we need a left back. But we don't. If we're going to find 40 million pounds to buy Ivan Toney, use that money on a bloody left back for God's sake. You know. People saying Shaw's going to bench Delo. Shaw's going to be on. The only bench Shaw's going to be on is the one at the NHS bloody medical centre. Like he ain't benching anyone because he's never going to stay fit. That charity money is not going to charity, which is sad, but it is true. And Ivan Toney, what did Xerxes do yesterday? Came off the bench, physical presence, scored a good goal. What's Ivan Toney going to give you more than that? And you've got Rasmus to come back. I think people learnt about Xerxes yesterday that they didn't know. I think people thought Xerxes was like a tall Kevin De Bruyne, who, you know, is just a creative. There are strings to Xerxes' bow. He can be a creative, and he doesn't look fit enough to me yet, and that's absolutely fine. But what we did see in the last 20 minutes from Xerxes is ball into feet, quick layoff, spin and run, get in the box. I liked that. There is more to it. He can play off the wing. He can play as a number 10. But what we saw in the last 15 minutes yesterday from Xerxes was he gets the ball, lays it off, and then he's off into the box. And is that not what Ivan Toney does? Like, there is this myth that Xerxes can't play as a striker, and he bloody well can. He scored a lot of goals for Bologna. I mean, look, some of the punditry last night was rubbish. It was almost like some of these pundits were still on the beach drinking their sangria. I mean, I got sent a clip, I forget the pundit, who on commentary last night, it wasn't Neville, said, why have Man United bought Xerxes? Just another target man. I mean, tell me you don't know anything about Xerxes without telling me you don't know anything about Xerxes. It's as bad as Neville's De Ligt can't play a high line. You know, our perception of Xerxes is that he's a more creative number 9, and yes, he will be, but I still think he's going to score a lot of goals. And last night's goal was perfection. I don't see what Ivan Toney offers to Man United in that last 10 minutes that Xerxes didn't deliver. So why would you spend £40 million on another striker? Spend it on a left back. Xerxes moves like Cavani for me, says Stephen. Well, I hope he does. We should have won that easily. Bruno ×2. Mount and Garnacho all missed howlers. I'm happy we're creating chances. That was our problem last year, says Mike. Good points. Can't believe people are moaning. I enjoyed it, says Gordon. Casemiro, we've done that one. Right, okay, let's talk about Jadon Sancho. So, bit of a Sancho Ten Hag warning. Actually, just talking about transfer news. So Ugarte is an update. When's that deal going to happen? You know, I wanted to just say, and I wanted to get a poll on this. Would you bring Amrabat back? I just want to ask, because we don't know how long Ugarte is going to take to get done. We don't know how he's going to adapt to Manchester United. I watched that game last night, and I'm glad somebody just said Amrabat in the chat, because it's just made me realise I want to do the poll, but it's also made me remember something. I'm bringing Amrabat back. It's not... I want Ugarte. I'm not doing Ugarte or Amrabat. Ugarte's still coming, but I'm bringing Amrabat as well. Because when I watched that game last night, I was like, even if you've got Ugarte, you still need Amrabat, because Mainu, Casemiro, Ugarte is 3 people for 2 positions. Like, I don't think Mason Mount can play as an 8. Mainu can. Mason Mount can't play as a 6. Eriksen can't. McTominay can't. Mount's a 10. McTominay's a 10. And Eriksen's a 10. And that's Bruno's role. None of those 3 can play the 8, in my opinion. And they certainly can't play the 6. So even if you buy Ugarte, you've got Mainu's the only one who can really play as an 8. Casemiro a 6. Ugarte 6. I still think you need an Amrabat, because we've got 2 players and 1 replacement, which is going to be Ugarte. I think if you've got Amrabat as well, you've got, we're going to play a lot of games. And I don't think Ugarte, Casemiro and Mainu are enough for the 6 and the 8 positions when you need to defend, when you need a bit of tenacity. So I actually think we do need Amrabat and Ugarte, because Eriksen needs to go, McTominay needs to go, and you'd replace them with Ugarte and Amrabat for more balance. That's what I would do. So I actually do think we need both. And I think last night highlighted that we need both, because ideally in that last 20 minutes, I'd have took Casemiro and Mainu off for Ugarte and Amrabat to give us some fresh legs and get hold of that midfield. And that works, whoever starts. Ugarte or Amrabat plus a left back, says Harvey. As I said, I think we need both. Luke Shaw is a classic case of malingering, which is exaggerating or feigning illness in order to escape duty or work. Call it what it is, says Kyle. Declan, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. Pete Phillips, we should permanently ban anyone mentioning Chilwell. We're going to talk about Chilwell. Could he become the starting striker, says Jake? Well, that's what Xerxes is here for, to compete with Rasmus. That's what they're here for. Let the haters hate. Up the Reds. Ugarte will sign, says Matty. Look, let me just talk to you about Chilwell, because I want to talk about Sancho. I want to talk about a few things from last night. I want to talk about the exit door for a few players that surely will be knocking on it over the next few days. Man United have been linked to Ben Chilwell. Man United need a left back. Maresca of Chelsea has basically said that Chilwell can go because he's not going to get the game time at Chelsea. Who are we and who are you if you're talking about Ben Chilwell coming to Man United? I mean, the last time I checked, Chelsea weren't relevant. They've not won a league title in years. They're not in the Champions League. They're in the Conference League. So why would we be going, let's get Ben Chilwell, when Chelsea's manager, who's one of the favourites for the sack, is saying, we don't want Ben Chilwell. He needs to go and find minutes elsewhere. Why would we be rubbing our hands together about that? How many more times do we need to make mistakes doing this? Especially in relation to Chelsea. We don't need a left back that Chelsea don't want. The reason Chelsea don't want Ben Chilwell is because, one, they don't think he's good enough, but two, he's always fucking injured. So Chelsea aren't letting Ben Chilwell go because he's bloody brilliant. They're letting him go because they think he's got issues. And those issues are going to be around injury and performance. So why the hell would any Man United fan be talking about Ben Chilwell this morning? And why the hell would Ineos start considering Ben Chilwell? The only reason we do it is because he's free and he's got a British passport. Well, you know what? So am I. And I've got a British passport as well. And I'll be fitter more than Ben Chilwell is. So I really am glad that the name's been mentioned. And I'm really glad that we can talk about it this morning. Because it absolutely needs calling out for what it is. This is not who we are. We can't do this anymore. We've done this for years. We can't go taking players from rivals they don't want. They don't want them for a reason. I don't care what... Look, Ben Chilwell, when he's fully fit, is not a bad left back. But that's the thing. When he's fit. Him and Luke Shaw are barely ever playing for England because they're always injured together. No, I wouldn't go anywhere near this deal. Anywhere near it. I don't really want us to do a left back deal that's short term anyway. I mean, what's the point in getting a short term left back when your left back that's meant to be your starting centre back is a short term left back as well? It doesn't work. Lidl on Quality says it's crazy that we got offered 60 million for McTominay and Maguire last season and then got De Ligt and Mazraoui for 70. Great value in business by Ineos, says Lidl. I don't know why I vote in these polls. I'm not even a Man United fan. I'm a Chelsea supporter. The community's got me hooked, says Rub. And Patrick Lynch says, well, you're very welcome, Rub. Patrick Lynch says, Spurs bought Van de Ven. Media knew nothing about him, and it was nothing but praise for how Spurs got a great player. United get a player like De Ligt, experienced, young, and quality, yet it's nothing but misinformation. It's weird, Patrick. It's really weird. And you know what? If you want a smile on your face this morning, just think about the amount of people that were writing articles ready to have a good old rant last night and got put back in their box for another week because Man United won. Really loved Mazraoui defence yesterday, says Pant. And Lindelof goes to Fiorentina. Amrabat in the deal, says Mandy Songwriter. Stephen Atherton, thanks very much for your super chat. Declan, welcome to the Members Club. Well, let's talk about exits. I've got some interesting stuff to say about... what Ten Hag needs to do over the next few days. But let's talk Jadon Sancho. So, look, it's interesting with Jadon Sancho, isn't it? Not in the matchday squad yesterday. Erik Ten Hag had two things to say about it, really. The first one was that he'd been suffering with a bit of an illness this week. First of all, can I just say, and I've said this before, so I want to claim credit for this, Jadon Sancho's ill a lot. I remember saying this last year. He's ill a lot for a footballer. Like... I remember before the tweets saying this, Jadon Sancho gets ill a lot. He has a lot of, I don't know whether it's sore throats or what, but for a footballer, maybe it's just because, I don't know, but we always seem to hear that Sancho's ill. So Sancho was ill this week. But what Erik Ten Hag also said was that I've got a lot of options and I've only got so many places on the bench. And I don't think it was anything more sinister than that. I think that obviously Erik Ten Hag in his wingers in order are Rashford's his number 1, Garnacho or Amada is number 2, and Anthony's number 4. So Sancho's number 5. And that's Sancho's position as a winger, is 5th choice winger. You're not going to get on the bench as 5th choice winger unless people ahead of you are injured or suspended. So, ill or not, he was never going to be on the bench yesterday. I can't see whose place he would have took on the bench because you've got 2 defenders in Evans and De Ligt. You've got Eriksen and McTominay and Collier for the midfield options, which is right. And then you had Garnacho, Xerxes, Anthony, and the goalkeeper to make it 9. So I don't see where Sancho gets in. I mean, you might put Sancho in ahead of Anthony, but we've just said, well, he's not ahead of Anthony in Ten Hag's list. So, and as for Sancho playing as a 10 or a false 9, well, he's not ahead of Xerxes. He's not ahead of Mount. He's not ahead of McTominay. So there's no, legitimately, ill or not, there's no toxicity. You're just unlucky that there's not 10 or 11 subs because I can't get you on the bench. And anyway, what's the point in being on the bench if you're the 10th choice sub? You're not going to get on the tip pitch, are you? So I think with Jadon Sancho, the reality of the situation just hits home, is that he is just so far down the list. And I said this a few weeks ago, and a lot of you agreed with me. You know, you've got a player here that, I mean, obviously I think Man United would like to move him on, because you can't be paying £250,000 a week to your 5th choice winger. That's just bad business. So I think they'd like to move him on, of course. But Jadon Sancho played in a Champions League final in June. He now can't make the bench for a home game against Fulham. It's a reality bite. You know, whether you're feeling ill or not, you're going to be feeling ill. And I don't think it's not a reason to go on Twitter and slag the manager off. Sancho's not going to do that. It's not a reason for Ten Hag to moan at Sancho. You know, he's not going to do that. I just think it's a cold, harsh reality. And there's two choices. One, you basically say, right, I'm back at ground zero here. I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And there's no guarantees with that. You can say, I'm going to fight my way back into this team from where I am. And it could take weeks, it could take months, and it still might not happen. Or you can go, I'm going to head towards the exit door. And that's not necessarily an easy option either, because where are the options? The best solution is that he finds himself a move, but I don't know. My point is, I don't know. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't know that I actually care what the solution is with Jadon Sancho, because he's not anywhere near the first team and he's not anywhere near a transfer. And a bit like the game last night, it's exciting that the end of the transfer window is coming. And it was exciting that that first game of the season was coming. But there is something quite nice about this morning that game's gone. Obviously because we've won, but I'm glad it's out of the way. It feels like we can start to get on with the season properly now. And when August the 31st is gone and the transfer deadline is gone, that will be quite nice in a way to go, that's out of the way now. So maybe at the start of September, Jadon Sancho's still here. If he is, he's got to knuckle down, work hard, and see if he can get in the team. If he's gone, he's gone. I don't really care what happens with Jadon Sancho now. I'm not bothered. The reality is the reality. I don't think it was big news that he wasn't on the bench yesterday, because justifiably, I think the common sense was, where would he get on the bench? I got a feeling he will stay, sadly, says Jake. I think if he stays, it's problematic for him, but, you know, he's got to work. He's got to work. Sticks says, I respect supporters who like Sancho. The fact no one wants him says a lot, though, says Sticks. You and Ten Hag just hate Sancho, says Dorian. I don't hate anyone, so it's just a shame that you obviously hate people and get angry. I don't hate anyone. Need 2 midfielders at least, says Stephen Atherton. I agree with that. Sancho isn't sick. Him and Anthony are finished, says Harvey Specter. City also rumoured for him. You should get him, says Ryan. And Shaw and Chilwell will be tragic, says Sean. I think Luke Shaw and Chilwell are good mates as well. There's a lot of similarities. Both left backs, both always injured. It's crazy that we got offered. I've done that one. Also, just in relation to Jadon Sancho, we'd be remiss not to talk about exit door for others. I did say this in the week. In fact, I did say it, but somebody in the chat mentioned it last week, and I can't remember who it was. Let's say it was Dave. Dave said, I think Saturday morning will be the biggest morning in Man United's transfer window, because the Fulham game will really expose to a lot of people if they genuinely have got a reason to stay at United or not. If we go back to that original list of 7 players that needed to go, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, McTominay, Casemiro, Eriksen, Sancho. Wan-Bissaka's gone. You've still got Lindelof, Maguire, McTominay, Casemiro, Sancho, and I forgot who the other one, Eriksen. So, looking at the game last night, Wan-Bissaka's gone. Lindelof didn't make the bench. Sancho didn't make the bench. Those 3, obviously Wan-Bissaka's already gone. I think they've got to try and find a way to go. You're nowhere near the team. So I think Lindelof and Sancho have got to do what they can to try and get out the door, because the writing's on the wall. There was talk that Lindelof might not have been fit, but even if he was fit, do you want Lindelof on the bench over Johnny Evans and De Ligt? I mean, not De Ligt. Evans, I mean, look, Lindelof needs to go, and I think he will go. And Sancho, we've just spoken about. McTominay and Eriksen were on the bench. Let's talk about those 2 next. Then we'll talk about Maguire and Casemiro. McTominay and Eriksen were on the bench. Eriksen was unused again. for me, Eriksen's a 10. Mount started ahead of him. McTominay came on ahead of him. And Mainu was absolutely gassed and he didn't bring him on. So Eriksen, to me, is a bit of a puppet on the bench in the sense that, nice lad, we all like him, but what's his use? There's no use for Eriksen, and that's the second game in a row. You just can't see him getting minutes unless you're winning 3-0 at home. So he needs to go. McTominay, well, look, as I've said before, and I think Scott McTominay's woken up to this himself, McTominay came on, but McTominay came on to run around in the box and try and get a goal. I thought he did, but it was Xerxes. Is that what you want for another season? And we're going to buy more midfielders? So, again, I think McTominay, you've got to look at it and go, I'm a bench option here. And also, when Rasmus is back, that's another attacking option that will be on the bench, whether it's Xerxes or Rasmus. Ugarte comes in, that's another midfield option. So I think McTominay's got to look hard this week. I mean, I don't know whether McTominay's going to Fulham and they just wanted to get that Fulham game out of the way, but he's got to be looking to go this week. As I said, Eriksen. And then that leaves Casemiro and Maguire, who I'd say probably aren't going to go. I think they needed to go at the start of the summer. But circumstances have probably changed it. I mean, Casemiro, there's not any interest in him. And although there's always been talk about there might be some Saudi Arabian interest at the end of the window, I don't think we will let Casemiro go now. Which is a bit of a conflict. You know, what I will say about Casemiro is that there's a lot of hype around him at the moment. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced at all. Defensively, I'm not convinced. I think there was 6 or 7 occasions when Fulham broke yesterday, and they broke badly, where I'm looking, where is Casemiro? And I think Casemiro against Man City and Fulham played really well going forward, and they masked some of the inadequacies that still exist defensively. But I think Casemiro will stay, but I think there is a little bit of conflict there because Ineos wanted him gone because he's on 350k a week. And I'm never going to stop mentioning that. You know, you can praise Casemiro. I gave him a 7. I thought he played well, but £350,000 a week? Do you think he was that good? So that is still going to be a big factor, but I don't think Casemiro will go. And then Maguire, well, look, Harry Maguire showed yesterday that really he can't play the way we want to play. I don't care what anybody says. That defensive line yesterday was criminal at times, especially in the first 20 minutes. You know, we're pressing high up the pitch with Mainu and Casemiro right on the edge of the Fulham box. And at times, our defensive line was nearly holding hands with Onana. It was like very, very deep. It was better at times, but ultimately, at times isn't right. You watch Liverpool at lunchtime on That's Football with me. That defensive line ain't going to drop. It's going to be high all the time. And also, passing out from the back, I think Maguire gave the ball away more than anyone. So that playing out from the back, that high line has to come. But what Maguire does show is that if you have got Yoro injured and your other centre-back's not fit, like De Ligt, you can throw him into a game like that and he's very steady. And he's very experienced. So, look, I'm happy. I mean, look, I want Maguire to stay because I never realised it would really upset Seb, and I don't want that to happen. Obviously, as a father, you know, some of you will understand. But I don't mind him staying as fourth choice centre back. I don't mind that. I just don't know whether that's what he wants. Because if he thinks he's starting games, it's not going to happen. Like unless we get injuries, it's not going to happen. You're not going to win your place from centre backs that he's paid £50 million each for. You know, the press will spin that around very quickly. You know, Ten Hag spent £50 million on a player that can't get in the team. So he's always going to go with Martinez, De Ligt and Yoro when they're fit. So if Maguire's happy to be fourth choice centre-back, which probably costs him his England spot, I'm happy for him to stay. So I think Maguire and Casemiro, I don't think they'll go. Eriksen, yes. Lindelof, yes. Sancho, if he can find a move. And McTominay, the same. And you know what? With 2 weeks left in the transfer window, if we can get Ugarte, Amrabat and a left back, and we can move on Lindelof, Sancho, McTominay and Eriksen, I'll take that. I don't know what I'd give it out of 10 as a transfer window, but I would take that. Mark, we'll love the Ugarte signing is what we need. I still feel Casemiro plays a big part. Give him a few games, he'll be back. Would love to go back and watch him when he was dominating, be doing the same things as Sticks. I just think with Casemiro, and I saw it yesterday as well, is there are times where he's just not on the screen and they're breaking on us and I don't know where he is. And I think it's because he's pressing high and he hasn't got the legs to get back. But he ain't going to get those legs back, Sticks. They're not coming back. You know, he looks a bit fitter, but he ain't going to get those legs back. And there are times where, look, that Mazraoui tackle in the first half from the cutback, where is Casemiro and Mainu at that point? Like, the Fulham players, that happened a lot last season, and it happened 3 times yesterday, where Fulham broke on us, and the speed from their midfield, I'm like, where's our midfield? And that is where I worry about Casemiro, is that he ain't got the legs to cover it when we get broken upon. And we will get broken upon because the way we're pressing high up, we will get broken upon. And Fulham aren't really that team. But, you know, next week against Brighton and Liverpool, if you allow them to break on us like that, they might not misplace their passes. They might not make the wrong decision. And that's why we need more mobility. When it comes to our wage bill, where do the new signings stand, says Ricky? I don't know. I don't know what the wages are for Ugarte, for De Ligt and Mazraoui. I've not seen them released. Do you think Fulham will reignite their interest for McTominay after last night's game? I think they do. I think Fulham like to put a cross in the box, and I think he'd be a good signing for them, yeah. Florian says we should bring back Amrabat as a squad player and get the Ugarte deal done. Sancho, Lindelof, Eriksen, McTominay out to finance the deal, says Florian. I'll have some of that. Imagine Wan-Bissaka instead of Mazraoui last night, says Cameron. Well, did somebody in the chat just earlier say that Mazraoui's like Wan-Bissaka? I mean, no, he's not. Like, that's the whole point. He's not like Wan-Bissaka. Like, they're different types of play. I thought Mazraoui was excellent, and I think Mazraoui is doing exactly what I thought he would do. Low key, very good signing for the price. It's only one game, but I mean, he stopped a goal in the first half. The amount of goals we conceded last year from cutbacks, and there he was to make a very good tackle. And he moves out of the right back position very quickly. I'm not saying Wan-Bissaka wouldn't have done that, but it was intelligent. It was pure reading of the game. He knew where that cutback was going to be, and he left his position to go and get the correct tackle in, and it was a good tackle. I thought he was I thought he played very, very well last night. I'm quite excited about what he can do. Matty says, I hate the fact that people hate on you having an opinion. Sancho is a joke of a professional, overhyped pony, get rid of him. Do you know who the Chelsea manager is? Says Angel Bomb. Well, I think we all know who the Chelsea manager is. Yesterday's game was great. I think Ugarte is a brilliant addition if we can make it happen, says Leave My Barcelona. What about Gutierrez or Hanko, says Liam. I'd take either of those, thank you. I've got a feeling he will stay, sadly, says Jake, about Sancho. There we go. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe, by the way. Big day. We are 8 o'clock tonight because, thank God, I don't do TalkSport anymore. So, no more Mark Goldbridge show on TalkSport 7:30 till 9, which means the 8 o'clock show on a Saturday night is bad. I did a Saturday night 8 o'clock show over the summer and I just loved it. So we have got 8 o'clock show on a Saturday night tonight, which is brilliant. Can't wait for that. But all day I'm on That's Football pretty much for the for 3 watch-alongs in a row. So if you're at a loose end or you're going to be watching some of the football, I certainly will be. Super 6 and all that. Got to keep an eye on that. FPL. Oh, just before we talk about a couple of other things. Fantasy Premier League. I mean, those are the margins. Those are the margins, aren't they? I've got Rashford and Garnacho in my team. Last minute of the game. Rashford assist to Garnacho. That cost me. How many points? Don't tell me. Rashford assist, Garnacho goal. And he probably would have got bonus points because he's already had an assist. That's got to be 10 points. Just, I don't know. I don't know. Look, in the context, I don't give a shit. Loads of people were analysing that. Some people were blaming and hating Garnacho. Some people were blaming and hating Rashford. I'm like, we were winning 1-0. We've won the fucking... I couldn't give a shit. They can miss 10 of them. As long as we win the game, I don't really care. I'm not bothered about that at all. Garnacho should have scored it. Rashford could have passed it better, but it wasn't a bad pass. It wasn't an easy... you know, he should have scored. My big issue is my fantasy Premier League points. But look, the game had been won anyway. I couldn't give a toss about that. It makes no difference. It makes no difference at all. Whether you think it was a bad pass, a bad finish, or just bad luck, it really doesn't matter. I don't know why people are getting the knickers in a twist. I couldn't give a toss. What do you think of Ruud van Nistelrooy at the end, says Tom? Well, I think there were some nice things at the end. I mean, I saw the picture of Ten Hag with his arm around Ahmad. That helped me. I think Ahmad's played so well for United over the last 6 months, and he can't play well every week. It's impossible to play well every week. I don't want to see him back on the bench. But I think what I would say about last night, there's 3 things really that I think are a little bit different that I would say that Ten Hag, in my opinion, has got to do from last night. And there's always going to be, people say, 3 or 4 things that Ten Hag must do, or 8 things we learned. Look, everyone's going to look at a game differently, but the 3 things that stood out to me last night. First of all, Mount and Bruno don't work. That doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It's not worth it playing both of them just because you press better, because it doesn't work. You need a focal point. Rashford and Ahmad are getting the ball and they're going, well, what am I doing here then? Like, there's nobody in the box, even if I want to sort of play a wall pass or put a cross in. There's nothing in there. Mount and Bruno doesn't work as a 2. They did press very well, but ultimately, they didn't work. Like, it didn't work. The best chances of the game fell to Mount and Bruno because Rashford put it wasn't a cross, but it found its way into Mount. He should have scored. And Bruno should have scored from a Leno pass and a Casemiro pass. You don't need Mount and Bruno. It doesn't work. I don't like it. I don't like false 9 shit anyway, and I don't like that. So that needs to stop. It doesn't work. It's too... You know what it is? It's trying to run before you can walk. We haven't mastered playing good football yet. Let's not try and do false 9 shit. So I don't like it. Second of all, I've already said it to you, midfield cover. We were dead on our feet in the midfield with 20 minutes to go. You've got to have an Amrabat and a Ugarte, preferably tomorrow, because that's going to happen again next week against Brighton in the last 20 minutes. If we press high up the pitch like we did, our players are going to be exhausted in the last 20 minutes. You've got to have midfield cover. And thirdly, Garnacho's got to start. I don't know why Garnacho didn't start this game. We won't get that question answered. I am baffled why he didn't start. I'm going to justify it by saying, was it a fitness thing? I mean, there's just no justification for Garnacho not starting that game if he's as fit as Rashford and Ahmad. He has to start games for Man United. I know he's a bit of a divisive. I love him. I think he's fantastic. And I think the reason I like Garnacho is that every time I've seen him in the last 2 years, he makes things happen. And when I say that, like, what I mean is he'll get the ball, skip past the player, and it'll go out for a goal kick. But you feel something's going to happen. And it happened yesterday. There was a couple of times where I thought he was fouled. The referee said play on, and Fulham nearly scored on one of the opportunities. But then he misses the open goal. He puts the cross in for the goal. He's just a player that the opposition fear, and things happen. And you look at the first half from Ahmad and Rashford, and then you look at that last 20 minutes from Garnacho, and people will say, well, Fulham were tired, etc. But he does it from the start of the game. Like, Garnacho's got to start. No pissing about off the bench bullshit. He's done all that. He did that 2 years ago, an impact sub as a kid. He's got to start for Man United. So no more Mount and Bruno up front. Get some midfield cover in and start Garnacho. And I think we will be a better team for it. But next 2 games are going to be tough, That's why beating Fulham was so important. Brighton away, I'm interested to see what they do against Everton. They've bought really well, and they've got a new coach. And it's going to be their first home game of the season next week. And then Liverpool's going to be tough as well. So winning last night was so, so important. There's a lot of work for United to do, but I'm glad that game's out of the way. And, yeah, those are the things I would say. Get your comments in as well. Look, Brighton will expose us, says Dylan. I don't want to be the prophet of doom, but we could get beat by Brighton and Liverpool. Like, I would have said that before the start of the season. And having watched us play last night, I'll say it again. I don't think we will, but they're capable of both beating us, and that's why winning last night was important. And I think that, last night, what I said it was like Wolves last year opening day. It wasn't actually 1-0, but it wasn't. Like, we didn't concede many chances, and we actually we should have scored more than we did. It just wasn't an amazing performance, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Jacob says, why the negativity? I don't think anybody's being negative, mate. I think there was a lot of negativity last night, and I think a lot of people got dragged into it, myself included. But I don't think anyone's being negative here, Jacob. I think we're talking constructively about things that we need to improve on if we want to be better this season. But what I will acknowledge, Jacob, is that there was a lot of negativity around United last night. Not in our community. I think there's been a lot of excitement this week. We've had a really good week and we were very excited. And I think last night probably left some people a little bit flat because it wasn't, you overhype things. But there was some general negativity. I mean, I'm looking at, what certain ex-players were saying. I'm looking at, the media and social media. And I think a lot of people have brought their baggage from last season into this season. And I don't think that's fair. I think a lot of people are carrying on last season into this year like Ten Hag's one game away from the sack. And I'm like, hold on a minute. We've got a completely different structure. We've brought new players in. It's ridiculously unfair to bring your negativity straight into this season. And I think some people did. You know what? I listened to some of the clips from Neville and it was like he was like still last season. And I don't know. It's like nobody's had a break and thought, let's come into the season with a bit of positivity, which I found a bit weird. But we've got to be active in this transfer window. We need to get a few players out. Lindelof, McTominay, certainly Sancho, and Eriksen. Get Ugarte in, a left back, and I would bring Amrabat in. I think yesterday to me really showed that we've only got Casemiro and Mainu and maybe Collier who can do defensive duties. You're going to need more than that. Across a season that we're going to play, you need Ugarte and an Amrabat, or a Rabiot or whatever. We need two, in my opinion. Definitely. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for tuning in. We will obviously go live if anything breaks retransfers. If not, it will be the 8 o'clock show tonight. Looking forward to that. But it doesn't end there. 68% of you would bring Amrabat back. 32% wouldn't. I'm live at 12:15 for Ipswich against Liverpool. Can Kieran McKenna get a result against Liverpool? Or is this Liverpool Arnie Slot thing going to just run straight away? Very excited to be watching the Premier League this afternoon. If you want to join me, it's going to be on That's Football. I would like Tsimikas on the team first. I'm Greek, so I'm biased, but jokes aside, he's very solid and he doesn't get the chance to shine at Liverpool. But he's never going to come to Man United, Pant. And morning, Mark. There was negativity because they wanted us to lose. The shark did not go away. They're still waiting. Well put. I don't know what you do about that, Ray. Because ultimately, when that's in the fan base, it's draining for everybody and you're fighting amongst each other all the time. And look, certain people drive that because they want to be proven right. Whether it's content creators, journalists, ex-players, media organisations, they just won't let it go. And we can say we're going to fight it and we can say that they're negative, but they're just not going to stop. And it's so draining. And it was that was a big factor last night for me into the second half. It's like I didn't feel that we had the unity to go and get the goal. I felt that there was people just, almost wanting us to not do that. And that's not supporting your club on the first day of the season. That's not supporting your club. Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you in a bit. Smash the like on the video and subscribe. And I'll see you on That's Football in about an hour and a bit.